So we'll be going live in about 2 minutes or so. So I hope some people are actually watching this. I'll be talking to myself. So I'm going to be starting in about 1 minute. And if you see me looking down, it just means that I'm looking at the notes that I took. Okay, so some people from around the globe are going to be joining from, I think, New Zealand and Australia whenever they're up. But anyway, I'm going to be joining and people can come in when they want. So today I'm going to be talking about how to read nonfiction books in the most effective manner. So some of you may want to take notes, or maybe you know this already. Hi Joan, hi Jillian. Thank you for supporting me. So let's get started. So the first thing for engagement, let me know where in the world you're from. And if you're watching live, just do #live and where you're from. And if you're watching the replay, do #replay where you're from. So I'm going to get started now. So before I start the actual training, there are a few things that I have to mention first, and it's very important to the way you read. So what most people don't know is that publishers have word counts. That means that authors often pad their books in order to satisfy the word count. So have you ever been reading a book and all of a sudden you feel like you're experiencing deja vu? That's happening because they had to fill it. One example, I was reading this book and the guy knew a lot about Disney and he always wanted to write a book. So one day he sat down and he wrote everything that he knew about Disney. And that was 50 pages, which is approximately 25,000 words. The only problem was that the publisher wanted a 100,000 word book. So that means he had to pad 75,000 words. Yes, you can add, case studies, examples, but how many of those do you really need to add? Why should you waste your time reading 30, 40, 50,000 extra words? And there are lots of people who love to read business books. But the reality is that most business books should have been a 20 to 30 page journal article. So these are some of the things that I wanted to say. So the other thing is that a while back, someone did a study and they found that on a page, typically only 11% of the text is important information. That's not a lot. So that's something that's worth you thinking about. So Francis Bacon has this quote, and I'm going to be reading it to you. And just keep it in the back of your mind. Anytime you're reading a book, think of this. So some books are meant to be tasted, others to be swallowed, and some few to be chewed and digested. That means not all books are created equally. So that means that you have to treat each book differently. Now, before you read any book, it's important to prepare your mind for reading. So there's things you do, like, massage your ears do the crazy 8. But one of the things that I mostly do is to listen to binaural beats audio. And this puts you into the mode, the alpha mode, where your mind can accept information. So binaural is BINAURAL, binaural. So that's if you want to look it up. You can download some audios to listen to. So that's important. So that's one of the things I wanted to say to you. Now, some people take up a nonfiction book and they start reading from the first page. That's not what you're supposed to do. Because go back to the Francis Bacon quote, go back to the publisher word count. So what you want to do is to preview the book first. But before you do that, you write a 1-sentence purpose for reading the book. And this is important because that will alert your mind as to what's important in the book so you can zero in on that. So after you've written a 1-sentence purpose would be something like this. So it could be like, I'm reading The MacGyver Secret because I want to learn some unconventional problem-solving methods to use in my business. So 1 sentence, it doesn't have to get complicated. So the next thing is to preview the book. So you look at about the author because you want to make sure that this person is actually qualified to write a book. Then you want to look at the book description. So the other sections that you should pay attention to would be the preface, the foreword, the introduction, the index, and the table of contents. You also want to go through and take a look at the images in the book because images, what they always say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay, so you want to know what the main idea is in the book. After you've read these sections, you'll know exactly that. So you want to know what the main idea is. So the introduction is usually the place where you find that. So that's one place to pay a lot of attention to. So the index, you want to look at the index and pay attention to the references with the terms with the most references. Why? Because that gives you insight into what the author thinks is important. It may not be what you think important, but you need to know what the author considers important. So you read the introduction, like I mentioned before. Now the most important part of this is the table of contents. So you're going to slowly go through the table of contents and you're going to put a check mark beside the chapters and sections that interest you. Okay, so usually when you're reading a book, you have some, if you're reading for information and to further your knowledge on a topic, you usually have some questions that you want to answer. So you're looking at the table of contents to guide you. So after you have inspected the book, looking at the sections that I told you about, the book description, the preface, the foreword, the introduction, and so on, okay, then it's time to read the sections that you place a check mark beside in the table of contents. Now it's time to read those sections. Now, doing all of this should take you about 30 to 60 minutes. After you've done what I've just said, it's decision time. Is this enough, or should I be reading more? You read as much of the book as you need to. Most of you may be familiar with the 80-20 rule. That means that you read 20% of the book to get 80% of the content. Now, when you scan the book first, that tells you which 20% to read to get 80% of the information. So those are some of the things that I wanted to say to you because that's important, and that's one of the most effective ways to read a nonfiction book. And when you read the book this way, what happens is that you end up digesting more books, because most books do not deserve to be read from cover to cover. So that's what I wanted to say. And oh, hi Nana, let me see if I can. I'm doing this on my iPad, so I don't know how to reply. Okay, so oh, I'm getting yeah, I'm not very good at this live thing, and I'm doing it on my iPad, so it's a little bit different. So this is what I wanted to say, and I hope that you got, a few nuggets that you can apply to your next nonfiction book when you're reading it. So thank you so much for stopping by, and have a good evening. Bye.